All right, here we go. Creative Society folks, welcome to Nature of Reality Radio. Andrew Fisher, your host here. This is a landmark interview for me since this is probably, I think, the first time that I'm going to be doing a show in which I have everybody on camera for a meeting. Fitting way to do this with the Creative Society. As I saw, that's how Rex Bear of Leak Project did it. That's how I heard about you guys. So kudos to him for doing an interview with you. And I guess I don't really know who to ask to answer the questions. Whichever one of you wants to take my question, go right ahead. Hopefully, it doesn't cause too much chit chat at the same time. But we're going to go for maybe just a little less than an hour today. So let's try to cover many subjects on the fly, but try to get into as good detail as you can with them. But first, introduce yourself, please. And how you guys got founded, what inspired you to create the Creative Society, and then we'll get into the future of it, well, the present day situation of it, and the potential future of it, and what you intend to do. But first, tell us all, how did you get to this point? Who wants to go first?
I'll start. My name is Olga, and I live in Detroit, Michigan, and I have been with the project for about 4 years now, and I have seen it grow from the tiny little idea into the big resonance it has given to the world right now, and I'm just excited for the project itself to grow even bigger. And what makes this project different is we have volunteers. So we don't have anyone that's getting paid to do that. We don't have any board of directors. We don't have anyone pointing fingers. And we are really just doing it because we know that we need to build a different type of society, a different type of format of society for everyone to reap the benefits of really living on planet Earth. So that's a quick introduction.
Thank you. Now, you mentioned that for 6,000 years, we have been living in the case of consumerism on planet Earth since the start of the Sumerian civilization leading up to today. That time period is, of course, significant in that you got the fall of Atlantis, the Great Flood that caused a great reset. Everybody's familiar with that term in this day. Great reset of planet Earth, starting anew with the Mesopotamian civilization, and the dreaded Babylonian banking system has been taken over the Earth in some way, shape, or form since then, with criminal bankers. And the Illuminati bloodlines manipulating society in a way that's caused it to be consumerist rather than creationalist, as you want to make it. So the transition is something that doesn't seem to be, it can't be done overnight. Recently, I had Victoria Reynolds on my program, and she flat out made it clear that the human heart is too tender. Those were the words she used. The human heart is too tender for an instant transition where everything is just released at once and all the truths that have been suppressed are released all at once. It is too much for the human heart to handle, and it has to be done in a, I hate to use the word slow, but gradual process that can acclimate everybody to it bit by bit. And if that's the best way to go, then so be it. But it seems like the longer we're slaves to the money system, the more frustrating it gets. And people say they want to just be done with money sooner rather than later. But at the same time, you also have to release all the technology that's suppressing, all the technology that could provide for everybody is still being suppressed. So I need to ask you guys, how do you think, there's so much detail you can get into this, but in a nutshell, as best you can, quick version, explain how do you hope to get all these technologies released over the course of time, while simultaneously transitioning out of money over the course of time to get humanity to finally be able to see the great things that it can do and get what it needs and be happy and not have to consume anymore. It's a long question, but why don't you take some time to answer it? Wants to go.
Yeah, thank you very much. I also want to introduce myself. My name is Olga. I'm also from Michigan, and I'm happy to be here today. It's a really good question that you have, and you are correct that it might take some time. And one thing that you said that caught my attention is that, this creativity that we're trying to do. But what Creative Society is, we've noticed, is it's a project for all people. That not only do we want for this world to come to life, but also all people in the world. 99% of people want to live in a world, in a creative society where human life is of the highest value, where we have equality, where, all people are cared for, and the society cares for the person as well as the person. Also, each person cares for the well-being of the society. And we know that today, after doing millions and millions of interviews with people from every single country of the world, we understand that today every person strives to live in this world. But unfortunately, today, not all people understand and know that this project exists, that this platform exists that will unite all people. And in regards to the technology, of course, once we unite all of our potential, once all people know about the Creative Society, once all the scientists unite their potential on this platform, of course, we're going to have a chance. We're going to see this new technology arise. We're going to have a world we all dream of, and the technology will come with it as well. But unfortunately, today we see that as we're divided in this consumerist format, we're not able to agree on anything. And the technology right now works against us, or it is not given to the people to make our lives better. So only by uniting can we make any changes.
All right. One of the controversial methods that I heard talking about to unite everybody is that everybody's day-to-day activities needs to be put in one big computer system. Kind of, for all intents and purposes, suggesting that an NSA surveillance system is actually good for society, because something like that would allow for everybody's activity to be taken into account, so what everybody needs to be provided for and everybody wants and what's good for everybody and all of that. Now, I'm going to have to pick on the other Olga for this, with her assertion that something like that is good for society and that there's no reason not to have something like that, because you seem to stand by the excuse that if you want privacy, you got something to hide, and what that in privacy wouldn't exist unless you had unless you had some feeling of discomfort releasing the thing that you want to keep private. I've even heard some people like Brad Johnson talk about how privacy does not exist on other worlds because there is no sense of discomfort in releasing the thing you want to keep private. Of course, I don't really look at it that way, though. To be honest with you, I don't see privacy existing because there's a feeling of discomfort in releasing what you want to release. I have seen privacy existing as an idea that no free entity has any authority over another free entity. Okay, you want to tell me, okay, you don't want to reveal your privacy, so you have something to hide. No, it's not whether I have something to hide. I have the right to refuse to show you what I'm hiding and refuse to cooperate with you until you show me probable cause that I have something to hide, because you ain't got no authority over me. Well, you seem to think, Olga, that kind of mentality is not going to help humanity get along with each other better. But then again, philosophers have always argued, how can people learn to trust each other if they cannot be allowed to hide from each other? So if they're not allowed to hide from each other, then that imposes your authority upon someone else, which you're not supposed to be allowed to do if you're not under contract with somebody. Like, I'm trying to assert there is no such thing as an implied social contract in which when you incorporate into a society, you give up your rights just to incorporate in that society for the well-being of society. No, because the collective authority of a group cannot exceed the authority of any individual of that group. So I, as an individual, cannot have a group force me to say, let us invade your privacy. If you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear, because their authority does not exceed mine. So you seem to have a problem with my mentality. You think that that's going to fly in the face of being able to get into a creationist society. Why do you seem to look at it that way? I can't help but ask you.
Thank you, Andrea, for your question and explanation. When I was referring to the transparency and openness of information and how, we shouldn't be hiding, we should know what our neighbors and what our governments and everybody is doing, I was not talking about doing that in a consumer society. That will be a disastrous idea to have. Because in the consumer society we live in right now, we do have concerns that you just voiced to us like that. But when it comes to the creative society and working together and people knowing that information is open and transparent and true for everyone, at that point, we will not have anything to hide. Like, really, it's like, okay, well, it's my daily life. I do what I want. We live in a creative society. Human life is number one priority. And it will make things so much easier when you set technology. For example, you go to the doctor and your doctor knows exactly how many steps you took, if you took your medicine, if you were eating what you were eating, right? He knows your diet, he knows like everything about you. And then he can really treat you, because like I can look at your history in a creative society and say, this is what you have been doing and it's not working out, so we have to change the way you live. That's an example, but it's like an example of mixing consumer and creative society. I have no idea how it's going to be in a creative society. All I know, it's going to be beneficial for all of us to know the truth and to have openness and transparency everywhere through, if we choose to keep governments, then it will be through the governments. If we choose to keep make some kind of other system. This is a project of everybody, and it's not a project of Olga or Wilkins or Jason. It's a project for everybody. So we all have to voice our concerns. We all have to know what's not working for us, and we all have to come to the conclusion of what can we do? Like, how can we live peacefully? How can we live in a society that really values that transparency and openness, and everyone agrees to it? So we'll just have to grow up and come to that stage.
Okay, well, grow up and come to that stage. Easier said than done. I think it goes without saying that in those other societies where there really is no need for privacy because there's no discomfort in releasing something that you're doing. It goes without saying that in those societies, it is understood that you're not going to be punished for your actions unless you harm or intend to cause harm to another person or property through negligence or deliberate intent. But on planet Earth, it doesn't seem to be that simple. Of course, it's obviously not. I mean, I could make the argument that technically someone who has 100 zillion pounds of cocaine stashed away in their home does not have something to hide, because technically they're not committing a crime because they're not doing any harm. They have the right to be as destructive with drugs as they want. Yeah, if they're not causing harm to anybody else, there's no crime, there's no authority to punish everyone. But because we live in a society where there is money and there seems to be an incentive to profit off punishing people for exercising their rights, this is a problem. So how do you get out, you creative society folks? How can you encourage and get the people of society to find a way to not pass these laws, which aren't laws, they're public policy, technically, what is considered to be public policy that forbid things because someone doesn't like it, so that people don't have to be forced to try to hide something because they know that someone is going to violate their rights to try to punish them in some way for hiding that thing they choose to criminalize. how do we get out of that? It seems hard to be able to do that in this consumer society where there is profit and incentive. The privatized prison industry is is just the tip of the iceberg in regards to that. There's no such thing in these other worlds.
Jason explained that a little bit more, but what I wanted to say is that you're right. In a consumer society, we cannot fix anything. We can't even start fixing anything because the root cause of why everything happened is still there. So that's why we have to shift our way we live, format of the society, from the consumer to the creative. But Jason, go ahead, answer Andrew's question. I know you got some insight.
First, I'm Jason. I'm from Michigan, and thank you for the questions, Andrew. But let's start at a little bit of logic, okay? And let's find out what you understand is society. What do you understand society is? Who makes up society?
The people, the common people.
Okay, the public. That's right, the public.
Yes.
So it's the public, the people at large, that must make the decisions moving forward as we build the creative society and step away from consumer society. As it stands right now, transparency and people's unwillingness to participate in transparency comes from two places: fear of having something to hide, or fear that the person who's enacting the transparency won't act in their best interest. Society is all of us. So when we make these decisions and we elect to build these 8 foundations as 322 million Americans, plus or minus, counting, that's the choice of all people and experts who cover constitutional law, all the lawyers, the justices. These individuals are going to be the ones that have to come together. But let's remind ourselves of the 3 foundations that come before the foundation that you have in question: human life, human safety, and human freedom. You see, it's like a ladder. As long as the transparency and openness addresses those 3 first, we can build any policy. Now, your philosophical question about what it means to be a free person, or what does it mean to act in my own best interest without harming another individual. You're right. Those things have to fall back on, though, is human life, right? Does your actions and the actions of those around you preserve life and create life, right? That doesn't mean no one can't use drugs. That doesn't mean that no one can be an alcoholic. Those are your choices. And as we say today, those are victimless crimes, unless you get into a state law, then they're no longer victimless crimes, right? Because, well, you got offspring and things like that. So we can go as deep as you want or interpret different semantics of this. But the point being is the experts, we have to reach the justices. We have to reach the constitutionalists. We have to reach the individuals who have the years of experience interpreting this law and get together, have this referendum, and decide what's best. The closest thing we have in this technocratic society as we're going forward, if you will, is China's social credit system. But what happens in China? This isn't to speak political about anyone's form of government, because they choose their government just like we choose ours. There's still someone at top that's eating ice cream while everyone else at the bottom is eating crap, right? Like if you look at all government systems across the board, there's some dude or some woman at the top eating ice cream while the rest of us are eating crap. And then we present things in semantics and policy language and get people busy with arguing with each other instead of seeing the fact that the social credit system could be used for good if it's used for good, right? So intention, but it's used for bad because it's intended to be used for bad. It's intended for division. I hope I'm able to answer that to the best of my ability as a former officer. It is what it is. Right now, it won't exist in the consumer society at all. It'll lead to absolute chaos and destruction.
Right, I hope so. And now in the upcoming year of 2022, some, like astrologer Donna Stellhorn, I believe, have said that she expects borders to be a big issue in this year, but it's been an issue for several years now, with the idea of bringing illegal immigrants into countries and destabilizing those countries with a clash of civilizations and culture that don't necessarily mix well with each other. But I do hope to transition to eventually a society where open borders can work in the real world. But in the present day, it doesn't seem to be the case. And there's two reasons primarily why open borders doesn't work in the real world. It seems the first is the fact that we have different currencies, and the second is different languages. I mean, the second one, different languages, is pretty self-explanatory. If people don't speak the same language, it's not going to be easy to communicate and whatnot. So it's best to obviously learn the language of the country wants to immigrate into, and also the people of the country, to set that as a criteria regarding who can immigrate. The different currency one kind of ties back into the founding of America, when all the states, which at the time were seen as different countries rather than different states, they all had different currencies under the Articles of Confederation, and that was a recipe for disaster. So they had to unite everything through the United States Constitution, transition from the Articles of Confederation to the Constitution to create a unified currency system. That was the primary reason for the creation of it, in order to keep like such a disaster from the different currencies with all the states and all that. So this, if you want to get into open borders, got to abolish the money factor, and also find a way to get people to communicate with each other more easily, I guess. But even then, should someone have to show a passport in order just to be able to use a teleportation device to travel from one country to another? Getting really, really futuristic about it.
Oh, that's Wilkins' favorite topic, being futuristic and traveling.
Yeah, so why don't you get into that?
Well, I mean, firstly, I'm Wilkins. I've been a volunteer and a participant of the Creative Society for a couple of years now. And I've come to find the Creative Society just through soul searching, asking myself those bigger questions, just really being unsatisfied with the format in how we live now, which, you know, boils down to consumerism. Now, with the in my mind, the idea of open borders in the Creative Society, the idea of nationalism won't exist. Culture will be preserved, but it won't be like an America or a UK or, a German thing. If you want to travel somewhere, you have the freedom to go anywhere you want. Or if you want to stay right where you're comfortable, where you've grown up, where your family has grown up and your culture has developed, then you're free to stay right there as well. If you don't want to, go and learn German to, assimilate into that culture, then that's your choice, and the idea of the Creative Society is that you have complete freedom. There's no concept of power. You won't be going anywhere to be subjected to the rule of some, high authority. And people will have the complete freedom. And as far as technology, I see technology developing to the point such that we'll want for nothing. There will be those technologies that exist like in Star Trek, like replicators. You want a cheeseburger, you punch it in and you get one, so there'll be no reason for people to be, at odds with each other, no matter where you come from or what values you believe in. That will always remain your choice. And it'll be such that if I wanted to, fly to Europe today, in the Creative Society, that will cost very little to no money, because we all work together for the benefit of people. Airlines and the transportation industry won't work to make a profit. They'll work to make travel convenient for everyone on the planet, So once we eliminate the idea of power and dominance over each other, things will develop very quickly, to where we can all share equally in the resources that we have available to us on this planet.
Thank you for getting into that. Let's switch gears for a moment and talk about the climate issue, because you guys have seem to have a lot to say about that. And I did say that I do not think that the idea of man-made global warming climate change is real. That has been a hoax to brainwash people into giving up their rights in the name of saving the earth. But of course, tampering with nature is possible, the HARP system conspiracy, that and all the rest of it. But you'd think that if all the white hats are going to take control over everything someday, then we're not going to have to worry about weather modification technology screwing with our lives. But and I've heard from many of my past guests that climate in the end is entirely dependent on consciousness, and collective consciousness in particular. You got enough people envisioning a hurricane, you can create a hurricane out of people envisioning a hurricane. Not that you'd want to do that, but you get the idea. Our consciousness and our thoughts and emotions create reality. So with that being said, how does climate factor into your guys' work specifically, and this idea of using our consciousness to better the climate? If like maybe it could be no hotter than 75 degrees all over the world and no colder than 55 degrees at night throughout the whole world. All the people who love snow, that wouldn't be cool for them. But it seems like I've heard all the other high level consciousness worlds out there. It's a rather temperate climate, Goldilocks like, not too hot, not too cold, and everybody seems satisfied. So does that kind of tie into what you guys talk about regarding climate, or are there other issues there?
Well, I just want to start maybe with a few words regarding that. So today we know that climate change is happening. It's happening worldwide. And we know that the intensity of the destruction is increasing. And so is the amount of the global disasters worldwide. We've done a lot of research on that. We have a lot of researchers and scientists who have spoken at various conferences that we had in the past. And we know that it's happening because of cyclicity. The 12,000 year cycle is why the climate is changing today. And right now we are entering that 12,000 year cycle. And it is actually a very alarming thing for the whole humanity. And also talking about borders, that ties into this. Right now, we believe that another country, people in another country or someone else are our enemies. We're made to believe that other people are our enemies because, I don't know, they live in a different country. But we do not understand that we'll all, humanity is one big family, and we only have one enemy. And our only enemy today is the climate change. It is happening worldwide, and it takes lives. It doesn't care who you are. If you're a politician, if you're a writer, if you're a custodian, or if you're a teacher. If you're a kid, if you're old, it doesn't matter. It takes everybody on its path, and it could happen at any time. And unfortunately, today we also see that we don't have the technology to predict what's going to happen ahead of time to evacuate the people in that area. And that is why one of the most important topics that we touch on is climate change, the awareness that climate is changing, the need for all of us to unite, for all the people to unite again the scientific potential in order to overcome the upcoming global climate crisis that are going to happen. Most definitely, and they're going to affect all of us. You cannot hide anywhere from the disasters that are going to happen, that our scientists are already saying that are going to happen soon. And so for us to survive in the near future, we need to know the facts. And that is why our next conference is going to be called Global Crisis. We are people. We want to live. It's a forum, an international forum that's going to take place on May 7th. In order to talk about the consumer format of society that we live in, human trafficking, slavery, to talk about why we do not have the technologies, to talk about climate change, how it's changing, why it's changing, and what can we do? How can we build a creative society soon in order to prevent those type of causes? So yes, I agree with you that it is not man-made, that is indefinite. I also have to say that it's not climate is not changing because of the anthropogenic factor. Yes, it does affect, CO2 does affect our ecology of the planet, but it has nothing to do with climate change. And unfortunately, those theories that scientists bring up right now about CO2 affecting climate change, unfortunately, today, it's costing people's lives because of the lies that we are being sold. And we need to change that. We need to know the truth in order to change and in order to find solutions quick. We need to find solutions quick in order to combat what is to come, because it is a serious matter, and that is why we're here talking about it.
Thank you. Now he mentioned lies and myths, truths, and such. Well, again, let's switch gears, talk about the education system of this creative society. The idea that children, when they go to school, being brainwashed and indoctrinated, not good for them. Yes, but is it really right to say that children shouldn't have an education at all? I mean, how can a kid do anything if they don't know how to read or don't know anything about the culture that they're in? But that raises a question: is a classroom setting like the best way to educate a kid? And if not, then what is the best way? You see a lot of parents take the homeschooling route, but I mean, is that going to school, you can still interact with your peers, maybe to some greater extent than you necessarily could if you didn't go to school. Well, like that depends on what everybody else who's not going to school is doing. But how do you plan on fixing an education system so that the things that students learn, well, how do you know what to teach them? How do you know what takes priority over what doesn't? Because a lot of the stuff they're learning in school is unnecessary garbage that really serves no purpose of help in the real world. How do you fix that? And what is worth teaching the kids and what isn't worth teaching the kids? And I mean, does it have to be some sort of a grading system where we know of K through 12? Countries have other systems besides K through 12, kindergarten through 12th grade. But what is the best way to educate children if you want to abolish the brainwashing and indoctrination system that exists today in the creative society?
Yeah, thanks so much, Andrew, for that question. And that's close to my heart because I do have 2 kids and both of them will be in school next year. But it's really important for us not to focus our attention on fixing things, because if you think about it, we all want to fix things, but they're broken. Like, why would we even fix something that's broken in a consumer system? Because we know the root cause of consumerism still will be there, and it will come back very fast, and the problem will exist again and again and again. So creative society, one of the foundations of the creative society is that everybody gets free education and equal education. But what it looks like, we will have to decide as people. So we will have to come up with new. We cannot be in the old and continue on and on. And what new looks like, it will be up to educators that come together on the platform of creative society and tell us what's the best, what's working, what's not working. Why is this history that we have for 6,000 years? Why is it all about human life loss? Hasn't there been a day or two where there is not a human loss, where people live in peace and harmony? Like, let's get back to those examples. So whatever it's going to be, we'll have to decide. And I know Wilkins is a part of the educational system. So I'm sure he hears a lot of complaints of what is not working in the consumer society. And please share with us, what do you think it should be?
Yeah, that is exactly, in my profession, I'm an IT specialist. My job is to help teachers and facilitate their use of technology in the classroom. And to your point, I see that in my job every day that, education in its current model is broken. Like the same things that I was learning in school, in the primary stages is the same things that are being taught today. And it, from my perspective, Andrew, to agree with you, it just does seem like education is just like a factory to churn out like obedient workers, to go into society and get a job and work. Where I think in the creative society, education will be truly to develop, us as like our truest, most creative potential. It'll be geared more towards that, and not sit in the classroom and learn this lesson and then go take a test on it as a measure of how well you were able to just learn about algebra or whatever topic you want to choose, to then just test against it. It's a very, in my opinion, stressful environment, both for the educators and the students. I have 2 kids that are in school right now. And, looking at it from this perspective that I've gained over the years, it's a little sad to see that, the state of public education continues to operate in this way. And, I feel excited, although I don't quite know, like to Olga's point, that we are going to have to figure out what we want education to look like in the creative society. We can iron out all those details, but what we know now is that this system really doesn't work towards developing each individual student to their fullest potential. It's just put everyone in the same bunch, teach them all the same thing, the same way, and then expect success from that. I see a lot of kids struggle every day just because, education in the way that it works now is just not conducive towards learning in an effective manner. And I think in the format of the creative society, we can change that, but again, we'll have to decide together exactly what we want that to look like.
Thank you. Fair enough. Another issue of a creative society is the idea that you can get people to work when there is no like a pay incentive. The problem with eventually transitioning to a system of no money makes you wonder, well, who's going to go to work if they know that there's technology that provides for everybody, and how can society possibly keep flowing and keep its blood flowing and keep going when there is when everybody thinks I don't have to work because I got everything provided for me. So, well, it has been said that in those worlds of higher consciousness where there is no money, everybody, well, they exist at a level of higher consciousness where they know that they have to keep working for service to others' behavior in order to keep society going. But it seems like there's some concern that humans have that problem where they're not necessarily lazy, but think that they don't have to work for others when everything's provided for themselves. So just work for themselves and everything will be all right. But no, because Earth was created. This isn't me talking. This is a Akashic Records reader, Andrew Bartz, is talking, saying that Earth was created as a 7-dimensional seed planet. And the significance behind that, my understanding is from talking to others, is that 7-dimension, once you get up to there, it's strictly service to others' behavior, no service to self behavior. So the how to prevent humans from being couch potatoes and wanting to work and do things when, even if they live in a society where everything is provided for them and then some. How do you give humans that kick in the pants?
No problem. No problem.
No problem.
There's two fundamental ideas to attack here and address. One is that it's a bad thing that if a person doesn't want to work. That's one thing as a society we're going to have to address on a fundamental level, because you won't find a 5-year-old or 6-year-old that has a desire to work for profit for some corporation. So obviously, along the way between 6 and 15, an idea has been implanted that this is a priority of a person's life, which we do find in consumer society. However, for those who also enjoy working, there's no merit-based system that incentivizes a person to churn out creative and innovative ideas. On the contrary, those people are usually snubbed out and their ideas taken from them, and then a corporation benefits from that person's idea, and that person dies of poverty and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, my camera shut out. So
that's okay. Go ahead and fix it.
I'm gonna keep going.
Keep going.
The second part of that is, no one's going to be lazy or use drugs when they understand their actions bring benefit to society. It is really hard to address that idea in the consumer format because people choose to be lazy because they understand the consumer society is jacked, but they also feel powerless and haven't had an opportunity to empower themselves because of all the topics we've discussed today that are honestly interconnected, from the epistemological system to the ontological practices. So what does that mean? People are being brainwashed in school to be factory workers. The whole setup of education was set up in World War II. It really was to get people to press a red button. And people have been conditioned to this idea. And as Wilkins had pointed out, education hasn't evolved, even though our understanding of education has evolved. So how come the average person doesn't understand these things? Well, that's because we use a psychological understanding and manipulation tactics, because these things have evolved too. And so these are used a lot more aggressively. So instead of someone learning that, oh, holy crap, a 5th grader can learn algebra and actually really be good at it, or we can teach musical theory to a 1st grader and they understand it, instead of these things being put into practice, what's put in practice? If I set kids this way in a classroom, their behavior will operate this way. If I show this amount of cartoons at this time, this behavior will be that way, with the end goal for consumption. So both of those things are the laziness of people not wanting to work and the fight against we can't get people to work. Like, that's because people live in this idea where they want to control and make money off each other as opposed to bring good to each other. Yes, as you put, that is a higher consciousness idea, and it may seem that way to a majority of people, but go hang out with some 5-year-olds. You'll see it in practice.
Okay, go hang out with some 5-year-olds. So, all right.
I can attest to that, just to jump in. At my school, we range from kindergartners all the way to high school seniors. And the most creative, the most free kids that you'll get are those very kindergartners. You just gotta have that the willingness to engage beyond sometimes the foolishness that you'll get, which to me, to Jason's point, is a symptom of that conditioning towards consumerism. But I see it every day, those sparks of pure genius, pure expression of personality in the eyes of those very kindergartners when I'm in those classrooms. It's like, I always say it to my colleagues, I call them all the babies. If you're in, K to 5, you're the babies, 6 to 8, those are the, confused adolescent sort of. And then, you got the high school kids, which, they're the high school kids. But my personal favorite group are always the smallest kids, because they have that spark in their eyes before, all the standardized testing, all the pressure that education puts on these kids unjustly really takes a hold of them, that you really start to see in the later years. So I think, Jason, you made a really good point there. Hang out with some 5-year-olds and you can see some really true expressions of creativity and the inner potential that we all have in us, that it seems to be like over the years just kind of just gets like smacked down, for a lot of us.
All right, thank you for your input. All right, got time for maybe a couple more questions, and then bring this to an end. I got to get to work at Whole Foods around noon, so let's. This is a pretty good interview, but I want to close on a big note here by talking about the future of humanity transitioning to its high-level consciousness area, where it can incorporate new ideas, new fields. And well, one big question seems to be, when will the ETs show up? I mean, you have to think, if we're going to be as super creative as we can be, we have to incorporate with with our space brothers out there. And when is that going to happen? Well, some say that the probability shows that maybe 2050 will be the year that the ETs can finally land on the proverbial White House lawn as it goes, and show themselves and say, yeah, here we are, the UFO nuts and ancient astronaut theorists were right all along. We do exist. We have existed. We've been working with you guys for all these years, both good and bad ETs. And well, now you can start getting your lives involved with us. So here we are. But too much of a shock to the system. Like the human heart's too tender, as I said earlier in this interview, for something like that now. So it has to wait. And also that ties in with the whole religion factor. I mean, some say that religions would crumble if the ETs show themselves. But I also wanted to get into that. I guess, well, let's kill two birds with one stone here. The subject of religion. I mean, in a creative society, everybody realizes they are their own God. They are infinite consciousness. They are God. They create their reality. So there's no need for religion, because there is no higher power, because you are that higher power. And well, once you realize that,
Andrew,
okay.
I'm going to stop you there, because I have no idea where you're taking this information.
What?
You got this from, but creative society is for everyone, like every single person, whether you have a religion or you don't. Like me, I don't belong to a religion, but I talk to people that are from any type of religion, and at the end of the day, everybody wants to live in a creative society. So creative society is not based on any type of belief or religion or anything. It really is putting human life first, and no matter who you believe or what you believe or where you believe, human life is something that is a value for everybody.
Okay, fair enough. So religion's not a factor, but what about the Space Brothers factor?
Like, I think the Space Brothers, we don't know when they're going to show up, if they're going to show up, if it's going to happen. I don't think we have, the view of the future, but we do know is that if we do not do something about the climate change that's happening on the planet today, unfortunately, there will not be a planet to which they can show up to. And that today we need to do something. We need to unite the scientific potential in order to preserve the humanity that we have. We need to understand that our number one enemy is the climate change. And once we do that, and we can make a civilization, if we can unite and actually build a civilization, then who knows what the future holds.
Yeah, they might visit us and say, hey, you guys got along very well. We like to play along. But, for now, I think we have to really understand that to build a creative society, a format of society that benefits every single person, we have to have this unity. And that's why we are at the informational stage. We are not making decisions now, we're not building anything now, we're not doing anything. We really are talking to people about this project so they can learn more, understand for themselves, and really do research on their own to see, do they want to live in a creative society? And that's just the step everyone has to take on their own and ask questions. That's it. And then once we get to the point where people say, I want to live in a creative society, and we have whatever the percentage is, 51%, then we can start into the referendums, and we can start into the, how do we get this into the governments? And we can figure this out very quickly with the technology we already have.
Well, thank you very much for touching on that. So, all right, it's 1:15. I guess I'll bring this to a close. Since I'm going to make this free for everybody, I don't want to make it too long because everybody will be able to hear this in its entirety. So I guess before I bring this to a close, you guys get out anything you like to get out, bring out your contact info and where you see the future of this going, and then you guys can send me this whenever you get the format down and all that. I just have some of my other previous interviews that I did before you guys that I still have to upload before I upload this one. So just bear with me on that. And but it will be up there soon. So why don't you guys close us out? Anything you'd like to get out?
Yeah, thank you so much, Andrew, for hosting us. And we are in the informational stage. So we were so excited to learn that you learned about Creative Society through Rex. And then now we are on a podcast with you. And we don't know where it's going to lead to, but all we want to say is just dream big, right? And just think of what is possible when we are united, when we are not fighting with each other, when we are not separated, but artificially. But what happens when we unite our human potential and the possibilities we can have in a creative society? So those were the closing words for me, but I know Olga got a couple.
Yes, and I also want to invite everyone to the creativesociety.com platform to check out more information. And also we invite all the people of the world, all the people who are concerned, to the international forum that will take place on May 7th, 2022. It is called Global Crisis. We are people and we want to live. We invite all the scientists, we invite all the researchers, all the people in the world who understand that we have a problem today and who want to live better and who understand that we need to change the format. So we hope to see you there. It will be translated simultaneously into over 100 languages and streamed live to thousands of platforms worldwide. And this is all done by volunteers. And we invite you as well to participate if you would like, or to watch the forum on May 7th. And thank you so much, Andrew, for hosting this.
You're very, very welcome. All right, folks. Take care. Namaste. Best of luck to you. And I'll subscribe to the Creative Society YouTube channel. Hope to see your videos in the future to get better acquainted with you. And send me this interview whenever you can. I didn't record it, so I trust you guys did. So you have your
yes, trust is a big part of the Creative Society.
Yeah, we have
to learn to trust each other. So thank you so much, Andrew. It has been a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks so much, Andrew.
Bye-bye.